Lange comes in and changes the dynamic of the show, but for maybe for the better. I always say there's two great eras. For me, it's Jackie, then the Artie era. Artie, Howard leaves his microphone on. He didn't really have, it didn't seem like any issues with you during the show at K-Rock. It seemed like he was pretty much clean and feeling good, even though maybe he wasn't clean, but he was doing his job coming in. But all the
unfortunately, I don't think, I think in retrospect, he wasn't, obviously. But in terms of dealing with him, he was I tried to communicate with Artie. I liked Artie a lot. Tried to communicate with Artie, in some of his troubled times and failed, but Artie was a great guy. Or is a great guy, The only thing I don't like about Artie is a big Yankee fan. I'm a Met fan. But other than that, I can't think of anything we really disagreed on. He was funny. He was quick. He was a big fan. When he first came on, it was at one level. Then after he proved himself a success there, his agent and I had a fairly easy negotiation over, on moving him up. But I always remember being in Vegas one year for those shows, and Artie was so smashed while we're doing these shows that I was actually sitting hiding on the side of the stage with my fingers through the back of his belt loop, so that he was sitting next to Fred, who had the control board. Howard obviously always and still runs his own board, I think. And that every time Artie tried to get up, I would pull on his belt loop to not let him get up, so he couldn't tip over and probably fall into into Fred's stuff. But yeah, Artie was great on the show. He added a different dynamic. Obviously, he wasn't writing like Jackie was writing, but he was adding because he was a very spontaneous, funny guy who had a lot of great stories that just added to the show.
Yeah, and you weren't there, and it was a different time. But how do you think you would have handled how his ending happened?
I don't know. I can't second guess anybody on that. It was, we are who we are. We do what we do to ourselves, and at the end of the day, we have to be responsible for that, and to ourselves. So I'm sure the guys at the management team at Sirius, I'm sure they did everything they could to keep that situation viable.
And no contact with him lately? I know he's kind of coming back out of...
No. I'd be happy to, but I tried, and maybe he doesn't even know that I tried. I don't know. And maybe this message gets to him, and, we could argue about who's better, the Mets or the Yankees, now that we've got a viable owner of the Mets in New York. We're excited.
Yeah. These times where Artie, I love Artie, I miss Artie, I ask everybody about Artie, but Scott, tell me about these times when you're watching him fall asleep or you're watching him fight Teddy or Sal. And did you have sense that there was issues with him, or did you feel weird about showing this, or was it, hey, it's a big party, Artie's laughing at it, it's fun?
I literally had no idea he was doing drugs until after he would say it each time. Then I'd be like, oh, but then the next time I would give him the benefit of the doubt. And again, he must just be tired because he was up all night long. I don't know. But, there became a time when the eyes start rolling into the back of his head sort of stuff. And the eyes, the lids are like half open. And, I had a camera on him. I felt like I had to do my job and capture it, but I felt guilty for it. And the extent that it was funny and he played along, like putting the bed out there so he could take a nap during the interview. Who was being interviewed when he's sleeping there? She's talking about her
was it Avril Lavigne or?
She's talking about an award she won or something, and here's Artie just snoring on the bed. It was so funny, but so the extent we can make fun of it, it was great, but ultimately it was sad. And Artie was a good friend, and generally the funniest person that worked in that whole 20 years of the show. And I just hope he figures it out,
You don't keep in touch with him, right?
I
you
do.
know,
I
he
just
changes his phone number all the time.
Yeah.
So
Kind
I'll
of.
call him once a year, maybe, when I find a new phone number, and we'll talk for a little while, and then he disappears again. So
And just give me some of those times back in the late 2008s, 2009s. Things are breaking down, and what was it like for you just to watch that happen? And how's he doing? If you know,
I mean, well, but first of all, I don't know how he's doing. I'm about 9 cell phone numbers behind on him, so I haven't talked to him in quite some time. I shoot him a DM here and there, but I haven't heard back. I hope he's good. I hope he's with his mom and his sister. The fact that he's not on social media, I think, is a very good sign. The fact that he's not anywhere really, I think, is a good sign. I think he's taking care of himself, what he needs to take care of, number one. As far as the Artie years, the end, I hated it. I hated every second of it because there was nobody more genuine. And I mean, he looked out for me when I got out there. I got out there in 05, 06, November of 06, he invited me to his mom's for Thanksgiving, right? He didn't need to do that. He invited me to his mom's for Thanksgiving. On the drive out there, he was just schooling me on radio and being a comic and how, like, hey, you're doing this Killers of Comedy tour and, you know, you're not going to make as much as you should because you're going to be doing a lot of the material with Levy. But there's guys who are going to be making more than you because they're on the air. And so you got to be okay with that. And you got to understand that. You got to make a decision how you're going to get on the air and how you're going to be perceived.
and I think we talked about it last time, but I'm just curious, like how much you had to deal with him. Like, was it more Howard coming to you and saying deal with him? Because there was a lot of issues there in the last 3 or 4 years he was there. How often did you have to kind of personally go to him and say, listen, man, let's get this together. What can we do to help? How many times did that come up for you?
Every day. I mean, Howard and I would meet with him on occasion, but I had to deal with it. And because we were a family and so close, that we felt the bumps in the road. And you know, I didn't understand what he was going through until, you know, we got really into it. And it was heartbreaking. I mean, it was really heartbreaking to see one of your fellow comrades and, you know, friend and a guy with such a big heart and soul as Artie had to watch somebody to go through that. It's just terrifying. And I didn't understand it. I'm not a therapist, whatever, but I was a friend of his, and to see him to go through what he went through. And then when he stabbed himself after I cut him loose from the team and it was horrifying. I still have shivers up and down my spine, even thinking about it. But, that's how heavy and how close it was and what it meant. And, you know, that podcast that I was on with Artie that time, it was just so good to see him. It was the healthiest I've seen him in a long time. And it made me feel good that, you know, hopefully he turned the corner, you know, but, you know, all you can do is pray. So, and hope for the best with guys like that.
Yeah. And I don't want to go on and on, but I have a question about just what was that day like where you did have to tell him? Like, how did that happen? Can you kind of take me through? I know he was on the show, and the next day, it was a Thursday, he wasn't, so it was clearly that day, right? Just give me how that happened, like just the details, because it's interesting, I think, to everyone to hear, you know, someone you've heard every day and made you laugh and you're hoping is good, now he's not there.
I talked to him after the show, and I walked him out of the building, and I just, you know, gave him a hug and asked him to get help. And he did go to rehab for, I think, 24 hours. And then he got out of rehab and he went home and stabbed himself 7 times. And I remember sitting next in the hospital bed with his mom and his sister and Robin, and Artie was just coming out of whatever he was coming off of. And he looked at me like, and I'll never forget that look. It was so chilling. It was like, if he could get out of that bed, he would strangle me. That's how I just, you know, and he couldn't talk. He felt pathetic. I could see, you know, just the pain in him. And it was a very heavy moment. And I just, you know, I'd rather not think about it.
No. Okay, I'm not going to continue. Or have you talked to him, though? Have you heard from him since the last time we talked? Is it?
No, I reach out to his manager every once in a while to see how he's doing, but he's kind of laying low.
You did say you texted him. I know he's coming out of hiding a little bit. If you talked to him or had any conversations with him via text in the last couple months?
No, I texted him the other day. I've got 2 numbers for him. I texted him to both of them just to tell him I hope he's doing well and if he needs anything. I haven't heard back from him, but I just wanted to reach out and let him know, man, I'm here for you if you need me, brother. And I love Artie. He's one of the most talented people that I've ever heard on the radio, and his stand-up is just fantastic. So great fucking guy. Love him.
Yeah, I've met him a couple times. I love that a lot of his punchlines ended with having a coked out in St. Louis, or he had a sandwich thrown at him at this place at the Funny Bone. So he's had some fun here. Probably too much fun than he probably will be wanting to talk about in the future. But when did you get a hold of Artie? Because last time we hadn't talked to him. So how did you get a hold of him, and how was he looking? And give us an update.
He was out of he got out of the hospital, and I think Ian went to his apartment. I'm not sure, and it wasn't long after that he had some more trouble, and then as far as I know right now, he's doing fine. I know for a few seconds he did a podcast with somebody. And then I think he was talking about maybe taking a gig. But then the whole pandemic completely obscured everything, because even if somebody wanted to work or was ready to work, they couldn't work. So everything is obscured. So who knows? I just knock on wood. I hope the guy's doing good, because I love him. He was good to me. He did the foreword to my book. Now he's been in my documentary, and whatever. I wish the best for him. And, he teeters. Addiction's a rough thing. I got 20 in a month. I'm going to be 20 years sober, and I could reach for a beer tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's it's a very tentative thing. So,
just give me a thought on Artie, and if I don't know if you talked to him, I guess not.
No, I don't even know where Artie is right now, and I know a lot of people don't know. He's sort of just disappeared. I hope he's okay. I haven't talked to him in probably a year and a half now. So that's a real worry and concern. I just hope he's all right. But great guy, obviously fighting demons, and just a lot of trouble in his life. But I just hope whatever he's going through right now, wherever he is, I just hope he comes out on the other side really good.
Yeah, and hopefully his nose is okay. I saw the last clip of him, and he was so good. He was really nice to me when he came through town. So I root for him